Look! Look, the dynamic duo!
Hey guys, welcome to the Dynamic Duo. I am Franz.
I am Kevin. Welcome back to the Avengers Tower and the Batcave, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go again.
Hey Kevin, let's talk about my dreaded subject. Let's talk about love and thunder. What do you think of the latest trailer? And what do you think of Thor, Love and Thunder so far?
Okay, here goes. I don't like the idea of all the comedic pieces that have been added to this. I know where they're coming from between Taika Waititi and Chris Hemsworth himself. I said to you within the last 2 days that I personally think that Mr. Hemsworth wants to get into comedy to a certain extent, and at a particular point years ago when he was playing Thor, he decided, I'm not going to play this character straight anymore, which does Thor a complete disservice, because although you can interject comedy into portions of Thor's world and you can have fun with it, there is very, very, very little that Marvel has ever made fun of in regard to Thor's world and in regard to what the artist and the original writers of the comics have done. So I think this is a complete mistake. I am not totally against the female Thor. I have nothing against Natalie Portman. But what I'm concerned with is how she's introduced. The whole, I don't even know what to call it, platform that they created for Thor after Dark World was done, they kind of skipped off into a song and dance that never made sense to me. Because even though I'm very familiar with the Ragnarok storyline, I have several of the comics that are attached to it, the movie didn't make any sense. And ladies and gentlemen, my partner and I do not hate, we do not, lash at people with claws and teeth. We speak truth. This looks just as stupid as Thor Ragnarok is.
I'm putting together the greatest team ever.
Are you packed? Yes.
And giant goats.
Oh, look at those! They are wonderful.
Yes, they are. They also scream quite a lot.
Indeed, it does. Indeed, it does. In fact, I'm going to take it one step further. It looks even worse than Thor Ragnarok. It looks even worse than Thor Ragnarok. 2 words, Kevin. 2 words. The claws have to come out, Kevin.
So you're saying if they gave you the movie, you'd hack it up to pieces?
I'd hack up everything associated with the movie. Okay? 2 words, Kevin. Cognitive dissonance. I am baffled. I am confused. I am perplexed. I do not understand what's happening in the world that Thor, Love and Thunder could be an option. I don't understand it. It is an unmitigated travesty of justice. This is an unmitigated disaster. It's horrible. It's as bad as it could be on so many levels. But here's the problem that I'm having. People are supporting it. Like, people, YouTubers, oh my God, Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok. Jesus Christ. All right. All right. Let me calm down a little bit. Let me calm down. Let me let me admit that I'm a Thor fan. But hell, I'm a superhero fan. I'm a lot of people's fans, all right? But let me admit that I'm a Thor fan. Thor is my second favorite character. And let me admit that I have a particular hatred for Thor Ragnarok and for Taika Waititi, therefore, for what he did with Thor Ragnarok. And frankly, Chris Hemsworth. But let me be objective here. Let me be objective, and let's break this down scientifically, Kevin. This is a comedy. Again, just as Ragnarok was, this is a comedy. And this took the Ragnarok comedy to a whole new level. These scenes are scenes of comedy. So let me ask you a question. Let me ask the audience that are for Thor Ragnarok, that are making excuses for it. Would this be acceptable in any other movie and any other character? Could Thanos be like, oh, flick, I'm gonna flick your costumes off. I'm gonna catch a weird looking lightning bolt. Here's what I'm perplexed about. We have an audience that's so picky that we make fun of and we reject movies like Aquaman, which I thought was a very, very good movie. Was it flawless? Of course not. Were some of the costumes kind of Power, Ranger-ish from Atlantis? Yeah, you could make that accusation, but it was a good, exciting movie that had an arc and epic and climax, and I could only wish that would have been Thor. I could only wish that Thor would have had a moment like that. All right? But we're coming from an audience that can be critical of Aquaman, but apparently accepting of this nonsense?
He was a god.
Of this nonsense? Every inch of the thing is bad. From fat Thor to comedic Thor to Thor is one of the last characters that should be made as a comedy. And here's the problem. Chris Hemsworth and Taika Waititi, and we've talked about this before, part of the reasons why they're treating Thor that way is because they have no respect for the character or the genre or you, the fans. They don't respect you. They perceive this material as silly, stupid, and they're treating it as such. And they're throwing it in your face and letting you know this is garbage. And you're eating it up, for crying out loud. What is happening? We are making cognitive dissonance decisions on Gore the God Butcher. This is what Gore the God Butcher looks like. And this is how the movie is interpreting him. How is this any good? How is this acceptable? How is this acceptable in any way, shape, or form? There's so many multi-levels. This is wrong. First of all, I don't like the dark approach of the comics with God the God Butcher. I don't think that's where Marvel superhero comics should be. Can some comics be that? Yeah, of course. Can some superhero comics be that? Yeah, of course. Should Thor be that on the mainstream? No, that is not the genre. That is not the character. So I don't like the overly dark and gruesome approach of Gore the God Butcher from the comic book. I didn't enjoy that storyline. It's much ado about nothing. High production value, very little substance that tricks stupid people into thinking that it's good. But I hate the comedic, 1966 Batman approach to superheroes as well. I love 66 Batman for what it is, don't get me wrong, but it's not that's a we talked about that before. That's an entity in and of itself. So what this movie is doing, Kevin, with my claws, is it's combining both. It's combining the dark subject of Gore the God Butcher with the silly aspect of 66 Batman. Mm-hmm. You can't do that. Even if you wanted to have a silly comedic superhero movie, you can't. That's where it's got to be. All right, that's what it is. You can't now, therefore, transfer it to a Gore the God Butcher who's going around killing gods. So there's so many levels, and I could go on and on and on and on where this movie fails and is horrible.
If you will allow me, in my opinion, you take Thor Ragnarok out of the mix, and this new movie, and this is just me, okay? Thor Love and Thunder, even with the female Thor, and you may have a difference of opinion. To me, they needed to go back to the classic comics and go back to the classic animation. And the villain of this movie, if you can call him a villain, should have been Thor versus Hercules.
Oof. Oof. Oof.
That's what they needed.
Ooh, how exciting, Kevin, would that be? Here's what I want you to visualize. You know what? Let me take that back. Here's what I want the audience to visualize. Thor, the god of thunder, in his costume. Enough of the excuses. By the way, that's why I'm loving Black Adam, because it shows you that costumes can work without excuses. But Thor in his costume, Hercules in his costume, going toe to toe. Totally going toe to toe. And ultimately, the story, listen, we don't need to recreate it. The stories already exist in the comic books. There are fantastic stories from the Kirby and Lee era, from the John Buscema era, from the Keith Pollard era, from the Ron Friends and Tom DeFalco era. There are fantastic from the Walter Simonson era. There are fantastic Thor stories. And speaking of Hercules, if that's where you wanted to go, feel free. You can go a million ways. You can go Surtur. You can go Mangog. You can go Hela. You can go a whole bunch of things. But you want to go Hercules? Let's go Hercules. There's a fantastic Kirby and Stan Lee story of Hercules coming to Earth, flirting with Jane Foster, Thor being jealous. They go toe to toe in the city. There's another story of Thor rescuing Hercules and going down to hell to fight Pluto to get him out of a binding contract that Pluto had. I mean, adventure time, my friend, adventure time. That could deliver exciting, compelling, dramatic, powerful scenes without any of that flickety flick. Dude, there's a flickety flick in a Thor movie? Are you serious? And we're buying it? We're buying it? Oh, Jesus Christ almighty. We're buying it. We're buying it. We're absolutely buying it. So it doesn't make none of this makes sense to me. And you're absolutely right. There's a million things that we could tap into to deliver a most powerful Thor movie. And this is a shame. This is a shame. I don't object to Jane Foster as a character for the sake of a character. I object to Jane Foster as a character that failed. Like, for whatever reason, Beta Ray Bill worked. It's another Thor. It's actually a horse Thor. So we can't complain about female Thor. There's horse Thor. There's frog Thor. But for some reason, Beta Ray Bill worked in the comic books. But for also some reason, Jane Foster Thor didn't work. She wasn't a compelling character. She wasn't interesting. And she hasn't taken hold any more than Frog Thor has taken hold. And so why are you emulating a failed character? Like, why? And you know that I'm a huge, this show, we respect representation. We want representation. We support it. Don't do bad representation. Don't do, So anyway, whatever. I hope this movie, we have a standing gentleman's bet. You think 125 million opening and less than 50% drop off next weekend. I say 100 or less and a greater than 70% drop off. I went above, yes. From our conversation, 60%, I'm going 70%. I'm going 70% drop off following weekend. And I think it's going to be an unmitigated disaster. There is no way this movie could be good. There is no way, unless that cognitive dissonance business, which is very powerful. But I don't think it's powerful enough to overcome box office. We'll see.